horn section going. Sandstorm.
Yeah. Ba-da-da-da-da.
So we started early. Welcome to us early. Minutes. Or
But we better get to it because time keeps on slipping into the future.
So, this is a little show we like to call How Did You Get There? A show where we can be critical of thoughts, ideas, opinions, and beliefs, but not necessarily the people that hold them. My name is Jeff. This is my co-host, Steven.
Hello.
We're brothers.
To each other.
We absolutely are, like, responsible for the things that we present, and no one else is. So if you have a problem with the content you're about to hear, or have heard, or will hear in the future, that's on us, and it's not on Jess FM, other hosts, his family and friends, people that look like him. They are not responsible. We are.
Jimmy J. Bob down the street.
Yeah, well,
it's not on him either, but
oh, I was gonna blame him. Let's get this fresh and stream us and turn the volume down so we don't loop.
so we don't loop. So we don't loop. So we
Yeah.
don't. So we don't.
So today we're talking a little bit about time. It seems a very zeitgeisty thing. There are multiple, like, I say multiple, I'm certain of two theories of time. There's an A and a B.
Okay.
A is sort of the linear time that we live in, perceive, and are probably going to talk about. B is the everything that is, was, and going to happen, already has, does, and is happening. And it turns out E, in my like weak-minded research of this, that might actually be more likely the case of how time works, but not how we perceive it. So we're going to work on the perception end of it, in that time seems to only go one direction, and so it is limited, and I suggest make the most of it.
Cool. All right. Good chat.
Thanks for coming out. But there's reasons. There's reasons.
Well, I was going to say there isn't there. I did recently read of a somebody posited that time is all subjective. There is no objective time. Right. So it's not that the universe is going somewhere and, like we say, something such and such takes 2 seconds or takes a nanosecond or whatever. And that is just not, there is no thing in the universe that is time. We just say that our perception was such that
it took
our description of the perception of this perception is described by this thing that we will call an amount of time.
And that's where the B theory actually seems sustainable and true.
Yeah,
because it does, like, the universe doesn't care how long it took to do a thing. It doesn't have a measurement of that thing. It just does. And as far as we know, like, we have gone so far as to say gravity can affect time,
which is cool.
But
we're still talking. We're still talking about our perceptions of those things.
Exactly. So that those things still take that same amount of time. Our perception of that has changed.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, it's like other aspects of Einsteinian relativity with respect to time, like bodies traveling at different speeds experience time differently.
Yes. And I think, but that's the time when colloquially we speak of time. We are talking about that sort of sustained chronology, and then it's weird for our brains already to think about it having variance.
Yep.
Whether it be by gravity or just sheer distance.
Yep. I also think about time in some other kinds of ways. When I watch and when I rewatch Lethbridge City Council things on the U channel tube thingy, I actually consider watching them at a rate of 1.5 seconds per second. Right. So I'm changing the rate of time that I'm watching something at. So it elapsed in a 1 second per second rate, yet I experience it in a 1.5 seconds per second rate.
But that's like an amazing example. Those things still take the amount of time they take.
Right.
Right? Regardless of our perception of the time it took us to intake those things.
Yeah. The creation of it happened at a pace.
Mm-hmm.
My consumption of it happened at a different pace.
Like, I really, like, I could describe evolution much more quickly than witness it happen.
True.
Especially on the grand scale. Maybe not on, like, microbial scale, but, like, for sure on, like, complex organism scale, yeah.
And one of the things, and actually related to that, and sort of hinted at 2 weeks ago, with the constructive nature of memory.
Mm-hmm.
They did some experiments with folks by shoving them off cliffs.
Mm-hmm.
Like not unexpectedly, but kind of unexpectedly.
Like, you will be shoved off this cliff at some time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Please take a look at the watch that's on your wrist.
Mm-hmm. Let me know what time we pushed you off the cliff.
Yeah, and
Oof.
yeah, I mean to certain safety, like not to certain doom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But still, there's this whole sudden thing. If you've ever been in a car accident and you go, when you think back, it's like, oh, we're just going in there, and then time just slowed right down. Yeah. So what's happening is you're reconstructing the incident in your memory, and you can only play back your memories at one speed.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So you play back. You regenerate. This is what the study suggested.
Yeah.
I'm not claiming this to be true. I'm claiming that I read something that suggests this to be true.
And it seems neat.
Yeah. So your brain basically records enough snapshots between incidents to be able to reliably reconstruct what we would call a memory of an event.
Yeah.
However, our brains only work so fast when reconstructing. And so we reconstructed a frame per frame.
Whereas all of those things happened instantly.
Right. We can record frames faster than we can reconstruct them back.
Mm-hmm.
So what, and doesn't matter how many frames you store, you play them back in that speed. So when you think back to those summers when you were a child and they seem to have lasted forever, that's because there was so much novel content being recorded that when you play it back later, there are so many frames that can only go so fast. Whereas when you are, 45 and overburdened with life around you, but you're doing the same thing all day, every day, you go, well, how did it get to be Christmas already? And that's because your brain is quite capable of reconstructing the boring things with very little data.
Yeah, because it's lived that.
It's lived that. So
muscle memory.
Yeah, so when you think back about the time it takes to get from Christmas to Christmas, and it just seems to fly by, that experience of time is a side effect, typically an undesired effect of reconstructive memory, right? And we do the same thing. We do the same thing when we're doing any kind of experiment. Like if you have a balloon filled with water hanging there and you fire a bullet through that, looks cool, goes bang. But if you film that with a high-speed camera,
there's like a whole novelty of watching the slow motion,
right, at experiencing time at a different number of frames per second than you would experience it just by living the time.
And so living the time's a good way to think of where I want to tangent maybe a little.
Detangent?
Yeah, maybe. That's like time essentially is a free thing. Like it costs me nothing to have it.
Yep.
It is itself maybe the currency.
Oh, even so, everything I know about commerce and business and capitalism and all of those things, it's frequently related to time.
Right? Like I spend more to get something done in a hurry.
I could build this fence all by myself using one me per hour of time doing it. Or I could get some friends and then 8 of us per hour building this thing. It gets done sooner and then we can enjoy it better because now we have shade or somewhere to lean.
Or the wind block or whatever.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And that kind of thing, like that charity work, right? I have the free time and availability of time, so I feel that time is the currency I wish to pay with, so I give some.
Yeah.
And that charity, I think, benefits from my gift.
And thank you for your time.
Yeah.
Right?
Like, for real.
We really don't have anything else. Like,
no, because I had to. If I want to give money, I had to give away time. I had to get paid for my time to have the money to pay the money instead of the time.
Yeah. Yeah. So if imagine I would like a loaf of bread. So I can take all the time that I have to wait for grain to grow, to harvest the grain, to grind, to find some appropriate yeast, to
go flatbread,
get
make it
some
easy.
Sure, right? Just to find all the bits and pieces to go ahead and make the bread.
Oh, I forgot napkin.
And I couldn't have it like right now. I can have it, later. That's all time. That's all time. I could do it for free. I could actually go out and find, just wander about aimlessly until I find enough wheat just growing in the ditches naturally, as naturally as it does,
Monsanto.
and do all that sort of thing. Or what I could do is I could do something that I'm really good at, and get a unit of time storage called money, and then trade that unit of time storage for some other people's endeavors. So somebody else spends the time and makes a loaf of bread. I give them one of my unit of time markers.
My brain absolutely, we've just solved the economy, right? Like we don't have to pay the work. We don't have to value the kind of work. Just everybody's time has the same value, and we reward the time spent. Just because then it's less subjective. It's not subjective, but it's less subjective. Like I don't have to worry about, well, this guy spent this much time doing the thing to get these qualifications to be that thing. I can just say this much time was spent, and so he gets paid the time he's dedicated.
There will be a significant adjustment required because people will be selectively kinetically conservative. Lazy.
I mean, I'm often in eco mode, if that's what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Right, so you go and somebody says, I will give you one time marker per hour for doing these tasks. And so you go and you put in like a solid 72% doing those tasks. And it takes you an hour to get 72% done what somebody else gets done in an hour. You still spent the hour.
I have failed to...
Is your hour worth the same as somebody else's hour at that point?
If the completed tasks are identical at the end of the hour, yes. Just because I'm more efficient with my hour doesn't mean I don't deserve the hour's work if, in fact, that work was assigned an hour's value.
Right.
They could be undervaluing the work. I could be exceptional at that work. That doesn't warrant me getting less or more. The amount of work per hour is the same.
But you're working on the assumption of the person who is diligent in working on the thing.
Well, if you don't complete, then you haven't completed, so I can't pay you for that hour because you're not done yet.
So suppose it takes me an hour and 15 minutes.
Then I pay you for the hour because you agreed to work for the hour to get it done. If it's incomplete, I can reduce your hour consumption, maybe. That's where you run into the edge, right? Is that your failure to complete still need some reward. What percentage of completion did you receive, even though you dedicated a full hour? How do we ensure people are giving their solid 85% every day? I don't think everyone's.
So imagine that you as a diligent worker receive 1 unit per hour, and I, as a kinetically efficient person, think, you know what? Let me consolidate some of this, so that instead of you having to pay 10 workers 10 units for 10 hours, you could pay me, one person, 10 units for 1 hour, and I will deliver you the same amount.
That seems fair. That is still the same worker hour per hour.
Perfect. And then I say to you, I would really like to pay you 0.9 units.
Oh, that's not value for the work. I'm not doing it.
So what is my incentive to help to make it easier for this other person?
Oh,
or you could pay me 11 units.
It's not
you
easier.
Pay me.
You're not making it easier for the other person. The other person, it's the same, right? So your employer is giving you 10 unit hours per hour to do the work of 10 single unit hour workers. The work amount is the same.
But I still have to do.
The cost to the employer is still the same.
But I still have to work an hour to do all of that.
Yes, everybody would work the hour, but you're not actually saving anything.
So how long does it take to distribute the payment? Distributing 10 payments takes longer than distributing 1 payment. Distributing 1,000 payments
only on the initial distribution of payment with
every
today's
time.
Technology.
Every time. It takes time.
I just push send the next time, and then it pays 1 or 1,000 depending on how many I've got in my program. Send.
But it still takes time.
Same as 1 is 1,000. Send. Beyond that first one, where I set up every employee and what they get paid, and then I push send at the end of the year. Send is the next unit of payment.
Ah, okay. Yeah, I see what you're getting at.
Yeah. So it's only the initial outlay of income that I guess the employer encumbers as risk to the investment of man hours.
Right. So anything that could be set up one time in 1 hour. Let's say in 1 hour for simplicity's sake. If I could set it up in 1 hour to do a thing, I should only ever get paid for that 1 hour, and then have to go find something else to do for a living.
I mean, are you still working? Are you still contributing the same amount of work? Or are you valuing the work relief to others as your work?
Should there not be value to that?
That's a really good question. That is, why aren't we still paying Shakespeare for his work?
Because Shakespeare can't receive it?
Cool.
He ran out of hours.
Oh, there you go. So all copyright, trademark, intellectual property should expire as soon as the person that created it does.
Yep.
I'm not a big fan, right? Because
I'm not a big fan of copyright.
Well, no, okay, that's why.
But I mean, actually, I am like
the security of intellectual property.
Yep.
Yeah.
So by your token, suppose I spend 1,000 hours writing a film. So I will get paid for 1,000 hours, and I will never get paid for that film ever again, because I have to spend no more time.
Correct.
And we all pay everybody an hour for a unit for an hour. Every actor gets paid exactly 1 unit for every hour that they work, and once the movie is over, they don't get paid.
Because that's the work they do, right? If their work was film distribution, then they would get paid every time the film gets distributed. But every time they act that part, they got paid. Every time I paint a painting, and every time that painting gets sold, do I still get money for that painting every time that painting gets sold? Or did I give away my work, just like the contract for the actor, the writer, the director, the everybody?
Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, it's nice to put away a payment savings plan like, residuals, right? That sounds great. But that takes us back to the every time a house gets sold, does the carpenter get his 10%?
Right.
Right? No is the answer to that. So why should other professions we should either bring up the carpenters and they get 10% every time the house is sold, or, I mean, until they're dead, just like playwrights and everybody else, or do we just think that if you're getting paid for a thing, maybe set some money aside?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not sure. I have a personal soft spot for artists and their ability to earn a living. Period.
Oh yeah, no, and
So-
I'm trying to find the right balance.
Well, me
So
too.
here's the thing. So we have digital cinema
Mhm.
everywhere. So you could go to a movie theater,
Mhm.
and there are. I will have to take hours that I have saved,
Mhm.
plus the 2 hours I'm going to expend
Mhm.
to see a movie,
Mhm.
for which I receive no payment other than enjoyment.
Mhm.
And I will give away some number of units, but that number of units, because those workers are working so much, some fractional percentage of my money goes to pay for the person who makes the popcorn,
Mhm.
right?
The
But
guy that had to turn the lights on and run the projector.
except that all he has to do is push a button. Doesn't have to do anything else.
True. And
All that's been set up.
He already built the building
And right, and the distribution company makes no money
because it's easily
because they go
push.
one button
I
and it
love
pushes
it.
out. So
yeah,
they
yeah.
right.
I love it.
So, how does I realize this sort of breaks capitalism?
That's kind of the point.
Kind of.
For me, in general.
Who gives the money to the actors?
Ooh, yeah, good point.
Right? Who gives the money to the actor for 1,000 hours?
I mean, this is where we shouldn't have a hard currency backed by countries. We should just have hour tokens. And
Sure.
everybody has the same hour token so that my hour token has the same value as some dude in Bangladesh.
Sure, because time is time.
Right?
And I'm
then,
cool with that.
And then we can have like... Okay, again, sorry to the guy that has to implement and make this system because you only get the number of hour tokens for doing so.
Yep.
But once that system's in place, we just have a holding bank that keeps track of our hours. The ubiquitous DigiCard that shows up in science fiction, or it's all attached to your whatever
Yep. So when,
live retinal scan.
sure. So somehow,
Live retinal scan.
somehow, some number of actors will get paid some number of hour tokens
Mm-hmm.
to pay them
Mm-hmm.
for the hours they spent doing their thing that they do.
Yep.
Whatever that number is agreed on, because there's prep and there's like all in, right?
We could do it.
But who gives them those tokens?
Sure. So the production company has a finite allowance of 10,000 tokens.
Okay, and how did I'll wait.
It's in nebulous group storage of our tokens. Sometimes I pay to watch a movie. Sometimes I get to do a thing, but it all gets stored. The cloud.
Sure.
The back end of everybody else's computer is holding this information. So then they get their allotment, 10,000. And so they can manage that however they wish. And so that the people can get their initial payments. They can then recoup whatever their initial payments were. We still need that base operational net amount of gross amount of our tokens.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise, they budget, they pay. Once it's paid, that's that. Like, I realize I'm de-incentivizing things.
Everything.
People, no, because the incentives might not just be monetary. That's all I've taken away is one incentive.
But you've taken it away from everything.
Yes.
That's
yes.
what I meant by everything.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's what I kind of would love to do. People,
Anarchist.
It would absolutely allow people to do the things they want because the value of what they're doing is still the same.
I am not a socialist. I am an anti-capitalist. They are not specifically opposite.
That's very true. That is very true.
Time is money, man.
That's
Time
what
is
I'm
money.
saying. I'm
Money
told
is fun.
time
Therefore,
is
time is fun. Time.
Money is power. Power is time. Time is money. So is money power?
Yeah.
Time is.
I don't care too much for money.
Money can't buy you lunch?
Yeah. Well, actually, money can buy me lunch in some circles.
Money cannot buy happiness, but it can buy coffee, and coffee makes me happy.
Yeah. Right? That's great.
That's my calendar. That's a calendar page this month.
Hooray! Yeah, so it's great that we have this notion of time is money.
Yeah, and I think that's where I was trying to get to, is that time does have a value, and I just don't think that people are given equal value for their time.
Fair. I also think that people, for whatever reason, choose to allocate their time differently.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Right. So the number of times as an instructor that I have had a student say, I don't have enough time to do X. And the number of times I have heard others say, you have exactly as much time as everyone else does. You have 24-ish hours per day.
Yep.
What you're telling me is that you have not chosen to prioritize time towards this project. Or you have already committed your time to other projects and are unwilling to renegotiate those commitments.
I mean,
that's what you mean by when you say I don't have time to do that.
Or an emergent situation that requires time that I did not think I had, did need the dedication of that time, and may I please be extended more time, 6 hours, because that's how long it took me to deal with grandma dying. So I need 6 more hours.
Oh yeah, so as the instructor, if you say I don't have enough time to do X, I will one time for sure, probably say, okay, when will it be done?
Yeah. That's kind of how I parented.
Ideally, you will tell me what was the blocker, so that I can then, if it's something that is in my control, I can help remove that blocker so that you can progress.
You would have a spare monitor if your student's monitor crashed and they're like,
I will lend you the one off my desk.
Love to do this, but I can't see the work. You'd be like, here, see you in 6 hours.
Yeah, well, in my particular case, I would say there are 3 labs full of computers plus 4 other labs downstairs which are suitable for the work you are doing.
Nice.
Go there and do it.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I never thought to do that. Okay, well,
and that's a legit.
And that is for real. And that is absolutely.
My heart goes out to that, because forest and trees and all that stuff, right? Yeah.
Well, I didn't know I could do that. Well, and now you do.
Yeah.
All right.
You don't need your whizzy gaming computer to write a point of sale program.
Yeah, no, we wrote point of sale programs with punch cards before, so I think we're going to be okay.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter to me that much. There are times when time matters. That kind of time matters, where they go deadlines. And most of them are arbitrarily imposed or procedurally imposed or socially imposed. So things like, if you would like to apply, if you would like me to consider your application to install your software in our institution, here, I give you a month. I need to have it by 3 o'clock on such and such a Wednesday.
Not a true story at all.
Not a true story.
I know where these come from. I don't even have to hear them ahead of time.
So, imagine your chagrin when we receive your package at 11 minutes after the deadline, and we say to you, we appreciate that you've sent us this, and we will return it to you right now, unopened, at our cost, which is not fair to us, but you know,
it's good business.
It's good business. It's negligibly expensive to do that. I'm sorry, we can't consider your thing because you were late. And they're like, but, it wasn't our fault. And we're like, but, don't care, yet a month. Your failure to deal with these kinds of minorly unforeseen problems.
Like 11 minutes.
like 11 minutes, and it was the courier could not find the right door to the building because he was a new courier, I think was what that came down to. Not our problem.
You could have sent it a day ahead.
You could have been done one more day early. Like 1 day in a month of time for this kind of thing should not make the difference.
Right? Like not understanding the workload or anything. If I get a month to do a thing that I think, wow, they've given me a whole month, I should be done in 3 weeks, and then maybe make some adjustments for 4 days, and then get that thing in.
Yep.
Yep.
And if you look and you say, in this month, I do not have the capacity left to do this thing, either you say, well, I'm not going to do it, or you acquire more capacity. Mm-hmm. You either put something else off, or you hire more people.
Or you aren't really in a position to do the thing in the first place, and so you should just call the thing off.
Yeah. Of the things that I have learned, the truism enoughs, truish enoughisms that I have learned from hanging out with folks who do multi-level marketing. Learned this one from T. Harv Eker. This is not an endorsement. This is just naming my source. How you do anything is how you do everything. And it's not necessarily true, but it is generally true enough.
I think within the categories of each thing, it is probably most true.
Yes.
Right? Just because I am a sound sleeper doesn't mean I am a sound logistician, right? But just if I'm not good at making short-term business goals, I won't be good at making long-term business goals either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you treat somebody badly, chances are you treat everybody badly.
Yes.
If you are bad with managing little pieces of money, you are likely bad with managing big pieces of money. If you want to change your behavior, change the little things you can control today, make them habits, and those habits will carry forward. Mm-hmm. Right? So how you manage your time in this one microcosm of a month, it will be indicative of how you might manage your time in a tighter time frame when it's more urgent to us. And if I need this by Wednesday at 3 a month from now, and you can't do that, what happens if I need something by Wednesday at 3 a day from now?
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and like in my charitable heart, I get it, right?
Right, me too.
I've been the guy at the deadline being like, please, this is what happened. I really couldn't control but overall, it is just an indication of that's how things go. I'm at the middle end of this where I am reliant on people doing the thing they will say on time at my work. Mm-hmm. I order a battery. I tell my customer it will be here Thursday because that's what the supplier told me. When the supplier phones me Friday and says, oh yeah, that shipment didn't get sent on Wednesday, it's not doing me a favor. I am still handcuffed because that's the only supplier of that product, and I feel like they know it sometimes. But I think that's the same sort of thing. Like I just have learned to just tell my customer 2 extra days from whatever dude told me on the phone just now.
Yep. Better to over-promise and over-deliver and under-promise, or under-promise and over-deliver.
That's I do that. I quote high on my prices for the same reason. That's like $150. Oh, $145.63 plus tax. That's like $150.
When I talk about time is a thing that can be managed like any other resource.
Humans.
Ugh.
Humans are a resource. Otherwise, why do we have a human resource department?
I call them Soylent Green.
Yes.
Because they're the people department.
They're renewable resources, though. We could plant more.
Soylent people. Yeah, so when I tell my students, hey, you have 2 weeks to do this assignment, there should be no instance in all of education where you don't know several days in advance that you won't be done in time. Right? If you didn't know until the day before that you weren't going to be done this, that indicates to me you didn't start until the day before.
I mean, assuming you're fair with your assignment, right?
I am possibly too fair with giving out.
I'm just saying, if I say to my writing class, definitely need a 1,000-page thing in the next 2 weeks. Right? Then, like, and dude's like on the day before going, I don't actually have the time to do this. Huh.
Right, and that's where I'm coming from. Is I say you should start this today.
Yeah.
And you do a bit today and a bit tomorrow, and you'll be done on time.
Speaking of on time, we're halfway through.
Hey, welcome.
Tiny little show we call How Did You Get There?
Yeah, it's our show of thoughts, ideas, opinions, and beliefs, and we intend to be critical of those things and not necessarily of the people who hold them.
You can reach out to me at HDYGT LYQL on the X.
Yes, or find us on the
X.
On X. Onyx.
Onyx. Oh, man.
Oh man, they missed it.
I know, so many puns.
So many. Yeah, or find us on social media or anti-social media, or come protest outside celebrate outside the studios, and we'll come out and sign autographs or something.
Yay! Power to the people.
I mean, if you want me to sign an autograph, I won't force my signature on you. I might even make up a new one just for this particular thing, so you don't actually forge my life.
I use my same one. Good luck forging it.
Well, there's that too. Woo, man, time flies when you're having fun.
Those are the other sides of this conversation to be had. Our perception of the time.
Or as one frog said to the other.
Time's fun when you're having flies. I say that to my customers at work because I change a lot of watch batteries. I say they come, can you change this? I'm like, why? Have you run out of time? I say these things, and I get sideways looks often because they're not ready. I appreciate that. Should
we bless Clinton Nick?
Maybe.
With something to feed his kids? They have gone without food from yesterday.
Clinton Nick?
Clinton Nick, I'm sorry to hear that. Probably not going to be sending you money on your Cash App. Sorry, but
ooh, no.
I wish you well.
If you come down to the studio, I will. We'll go buy groceries.
We'll go buy a bag of groceries.
And we'll feed your
Sound
kids.
Good? All right.
And not to other kids. We'll feed them food.
But thanks for tuning in. We value your time and checking in with that.
Yeah. So, and that, just a weird aside, when people actually do like a legit ask on these things, as opposed to just something maybe spam looking a little, like I worry about these people. I know I'm pretty sure that's even Spamish, but still probably halfway legitimate.
Yep.
Right? Like.
Yeah. I know. I can take the time to say, yeah, we can make an arrangement, but it's not going to be this arrangement.
Was somewhat reminded of there's a scene in a movie called Airplane.
I've heard of that.
Yes, where
isn't that a shot-for-shot remake of 0 Hour?
Almost. Oh my gosh. So then, as he's streaming through the terminal, there are different charitable requests that come his way, but
buy a flower?
That's the one. But he doesn't have time. He's got number. What makes this the comedy to me is that if he wasn't in a hurry, he might have considered each of those proposals and donated along the way.
Yep.
Right? Like they kind of make it like, to me that's the comedy is, no, I don't have time. It's not that he's like, no, I hate your cause.
Yeah, no, it's
just I have to do this thing. And I thought that's what makes it fun. Like,
yeah, would you come do this play with us? I do not have the time. I cannot devote.
Ooh, I did. That was like a prime. I'm trying to avoid because I'm definitely bragging all the time about this right now.
Justifiably so.
But yeah, I was asked, and do I legitimately have the time? Like I was aware that is my free hours in the morning, my free hour at lunch, my free hours in the evenings that I am giving. Yeah, my free time.
The time that you would otherwise spend on other things that you enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, and I do enjoy acting, so it's not a hard giveaway.
You're trading enjoyment for enjoyment.
And I feel like I'm benefiting the community with my giving. And all of the other actors that were like, oh, we've got nobody else. That had already assigned a bunch of their free time to this project. They'd already given. And we're about to get nothing in reward. other than, well, we hung out and met each other.
I ask for nothing, and you shall receive it in abundance.
So much for you. So that was fun. I mean, that was fun.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I'm about to undertake, starting Monday, a similar project, but now that one is a planned amount of given away time, and others are contributing at the same time.
Yeah, and that's great. Like, time is...
But that's what I have the most to give of. Like, I couldn't work those same number of hours and have given the same way monetarily. Like, if I just threw an extra $1,000 at this problem, would not have helped them at all.
Right.
Yeah.
Money's... Yeah, time tokens, not solving this problem.
Yeah, exactly. The token's not doing it. Need the actual time. Need the actual work.
Yeah.
Just in case you're wondering which industry might actually be longer lived on the AI platforms, it would be the live theater, maybe.
Yep.
Maybe. Not. I'm just because I do it, I feel extra protective of it, just like anyone else who has a job that's threatened by any kind of technology.
So there was an interesting article on Spark on CBC that we were listening to on the way back home today. Spark is ending at the end of June after 17 years.
Well, I'm older and have outlived a radio show, or 5.
Yeah, if you... things run their course, but it's been 17 years of interesting things about technology. And I wish that I had the inclination and the time to go back and listen to 17 seasons.
There it is. I could make the time.
But I'd have to give up something else. Yeah. Right? There's only time. I have as much time as everybody else does. Do I want to prioritize it? So one of the things they were talking about today was about automation and efficiencies. Right? Just because you make something efficient doesn't necessarily make it better. Efficient for whom? Right? So I think back to all the great ideas behind the printing press. So if you wanted to duplicate a book a long ago in the before time, you would sit down, pen in hand, and copy from one to the next.
Or commission a scriptorium to make multiple copies.
Right, so a bunch of other people would use their time to make copies of a thing. And frequently they would be remarkably similar.
That's a good way to put it, yeah.
And then and then Bob Gutenberg.
Joe. Johann.
Steve Gutenberg.
Steve Gutenberg. And Motormouth Jones.
So Hans Gruberberg threw a printing press off the Nakatomi Tower.
Yippee-ki-yay.
Woof. So Gutenberg and his movable type printing press, so you didn't have to make a single wood block per page. You just go, okay, here's a page, clunkety, 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 clunkety. Rearrange it, clunkety, 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 clunkety. Could make many books very fast. And that was going to save a lot of people a lot of time. And it did, but it created other problems. And,
that's what happened to the thorn.
The gods.
Yeah.
That thorn?
Thorn as in oldie.
As in thee.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, we didn't lose the ampersand until much later.
No, that's very true.
Yeah. They used to be part of the alphabet.
Which is awesome.
Yeah. Right after Z. In our typography. So we have this, so even the automatic clothing washing machine. Just think of the hours that you will save washing clothes.
That is how it was advertised.
And and women will have so much spare time, but then they didn't.
No, we found new things to occupy their time.
Right.
Our time.
Frequently, I've heard it joked recently that your reward for good hard work at work is more work. Right? I am paying you for these hours, and if you are more efficient using those hours, I'm not paying you for what you do, I'm paying you for the time that you're here. So if you get all your stuff done early,
I have more stuff.
There is no reward, you just get more stuff. Now I will take the product of your work and I will sell it with no proportional regard to your time.
Yes.
Merely to somebody else's convenience and a way that I can make more money.
I instantly backspun that on efficient memorizing actors.
Yep.
Right? If I contract $1 million actor because they suck and I'm paying them for the total time, but everybody else is off book and ready to go, should they get more?
Yep.
And then as the film releases, they get paid more on each. Just a thought.
Percentage of time invested.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I got a business idea for you after the show. I really don't want to say this one online, but I need to bounce it off your.
So we get these boxes and we write Pet Rock on the outside, but then we just ship the empty box.
You have to get your own rock.
And then your store box, shelf stocking kids, they go down to the river and get some rocks and put them in because you don't want to pay for shipping the rock.
Oh yeah, that's great.
But then people will get it and go, Pet Rock, You might even put googly eyes on it or paint an eyeball on it. Yeah.
Great googly moogly eyes. So yeah, so this time for money, time for talent, time after time.
Time for wasting?
Is it wasting? So
I hear that one. That's what's
wasting time.
Yeah. What are you doing? Just killing time.
You can't kill time without injuring eternity. I forget who told me that.
MLMs, dude. Pretty sure same source.
Pretty sure. I don't know which one though. But it's fun, right? Like
that's not a bad one.
And it
got a reaction.
Yeah. You can't, because you cannot actually kill eternity. But man, you can make it suffer.
Yeah, right.
The suffering of eternity.
Here's what I'm here.
For eternity?
Infinite could be applied to everything. Eternal is still only temporal.
I think so. Yeah. Eternality is one dimension of
it's
the infinite cosmos.
Yeah, it's a subsection of infinity.
It's an infinity.
Yeah.
Yeah. Advanced. Maybe we can do a thing with
doing set theory. No set theory. I have an infinite set.
Unset theory.
All sets that include infinite sets, except the set that includes infinite sets.
Aleph 1. All right. We got a little gray mouse in here, and
oh God, he would love and hate us all at once for even suggesting it.
Yep, absolutely.
he's just a avid hobbyist, and damn good at it. But yeah.
Well, it's find the thing that you enjoy and invest your time, right?
If you love the work you're doing, you never work a day in your life. Do we pay those people that love their job? They're not really working. They tell me so. Anyway.
Oof. Oh. I'll comment on that in a moment. I think
that's important. That's a good way to.
I think this is important.
Yes.
Yeah. Where was I? Time wasting.
Time wasting.
Whose time is it?
That's a very good point.
Right. It's my time. I can do with this time whatever I choose. If you're pissed off about how I spend my time, that's a different problem. That's a you problem.
So wasting time happens only if it's somebody else's. I.e., and I've said this, being early wastes my time as much as being late wastes somebody else's. Right? I don't choose to waste my time. If I'm just early, that's just my poor time management. I didn't choose to be early. If I'm on time, that is good time management. If I am late, other people have been waiting, and I have been wasting their time.
Yes.
Right?
But I can't waste my own time.
I've only accidentally, but yes, I can't. Yep. Intentionally, it's not wasting. That's you're doing what you want with your time at that point.
Yeah, I mean, unless having been told I could do something more efficiently, thereby giving me more time later, and I choose to ignore that,
then you might be wasting.
I might be wasting my own time.
But it's still your choice, so it's not really wasting it. You're just not managing it well. Yeah. But that's sort of where I get to on the wasting time is like, well, it's not terrible if I waste my time by being early, as an example. It is terrible if I waste somebody else's by being late.
Can you recycle time?
I feel like no is the answer, just shortly. And I'm trying to fathom out, I can reduce, like if I were to apply the green modeling to time.
Right, that's where I'm going with that.
Can I reduce the amount of time? Yes. Like I can become more efficient at a thing, so I've reduced.
Yeah, but
the amount of time.
I can't reuse time. I only get one shot at each piece of time.
Yes, I can't recover or reuse. I reduce, recover, and I can't recycle.
I can't recycle. I can't go back and use that time for something else.
I can't reuse the time. I can't have that same amount of time and use it as something else.
Yeah.
Like recycling, I could use it for the same thing again. I just can't do that. But reusing is like the garbage bag, the shopping bag that's now a garbage bag.
Right.
Right? So my hour of lawn mowing is not reusable now as my hour of doing the show.
No.
Right?
Now,
nor is my hour of doing this show this recyclable as an hour of another show. But I could actually rebroadcast this show and recycle that hour.
True.
So in some instances, we could create a special case where time has been recycled, but I can't.
That's my minute, my second and a half per second watching of city council.
You are saving time
by not asking them to do it all again.
By having them only do it
one time.
Yeah, one time, but 1.5 times.
Man,
faster.
If they could just talk faster,
that would be great. But they have to ponder. And you still have to get stuck with.
They ought to ponder, yes. They ought to think. They ought to think about the consequences. They ought to plan, prepare, read.
But they do ponder their responses.
They ought to ponder longer, some of them.
They ought to think about the proper responses instead of just pondering their responses. They wish to be so. But if we could get rid of the those things.
Yeah.
Like if someone could sit there and edit as they went and take out all the
there's software that does that effectively.
Yes, so I've seen.
Yeah.
And I love when
I could do without a whole lot of the omphaloscepsis as well. Omphaloscepsis is a great word.
Sure.
Navel gazing.
Oh yes, very good. Very good.
Contemplating one's navel. Omphaloscepsis. Yeah. I
mean, unless you've got some sort of rash, it's kind of a waste of time.
Whoa! Yeah.
But my time.
In the middle, yeah.
If they're not being productive at the job that I have chosen them to do, whether me specifically chose any of them specifically is irrelevant. They've been chosen to do a job. Love it if they did that.
Time travel. We don't have very much time.
No.
We have 11 minutes-ish.
11 minutes.
One of my favorite subsets of fiction is time travel fiction.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I have spent much time reading and watching and listening to varieties of time travel fiction.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm always impressed at the number of ways that we think time could work if we could experience it in some other pace than 1 second per second in a forward like motion.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you could pick it up and skip back like dropping a needle on a record.
Mm-hmm. Right? Would the record play differently?
Would the record play differently?
Yeah.
So if you think of time as being this immutable thing, if you live in a fully lost the word
objective, contained.
No, what's the one that's opposite of free will?
Deterministic.
Yeah, that's the word. Why could I not think of deterministic? If it's a fully deterministic universe, then having been able to skip back would not yield any other
Correct.
results.
Correct.
Because you would have always skipped back.
Yes.
And you would have always done the thing.
Yes.
And how would you know?
You wouldn't know each separate attempt from the other, but it would always go that way.
And it would have to, because determinism.
Yeah.
And then sort of it calls into question, like, if it is like a record, but I could pick up the needle and move the player back, how does that actually move me back? Right. So there's been lots of time travel like that, where it's like you know the whole grandfather paradox thing. You go back and kill your own grandfather before you existed.
Do you then exist to kill your grandfather? No, but then you're not there to go back and kill him. So then you are born, so then you do go back and kill him, and then you're not born, so then you don't go back and kill him, then you are born.
But then any number of times that loops through, says one version of this loopy loop thing, is those loops become sealed off.
I mean, that advances the story.
And self-contained, and either resolve themselves out by some other thing changing that on one trip that you go back. So that, yes, you go back, and then, yes, you go back, but you go back slightly differently because butterfly effect, something, whatever. Or it literally just becomes sealed off and becomes a non-issue loop. So time basically does this, and this is a piece of that time, and then you just carry, then everything else that matters to the rest of the universe just carries on. So it's as if the time just went like this and boop and carries on.
Yes.
And I can buy that.
That's not a bad one. Loopers does okay with attempting that.
Yeah.
Where I've got the assassin, I send the young form of that assassin to kill the old form, because that part will carry on as though this part didn't happen, even though this part was entirely important to this part.
Yep.
I get it.
You know, the Parmar time travel is a good one, I think, you know, where you can only go as far back in time as where the machine was.
Yeah.
You can only go where the machine has existed.
That is a thing that some scientists actually built to try and make work.
Yeah.
And so, like, logically it makes more sense, I think, in terms of all the speculative things that are time travel. So that's where I believe that forward is a whole lot, like, we can do forward.
Yeah, we're really good at forward at a
second.
Yeah, for second per second, forward time travel.
Yeah.
In the direction we agree upon is forward.
And same in the if we're playing, you know, with our Clark Tech here, you could be frozen.
Yep.
And by that same metric, have traveled forward in time without your awareness of said time, or you're being told, "We'll wake you up in 2,000 years." You will have time traveled through 2,000 years because you would not have experienced those 2,000 years, so you would have traveled past those 2,000 years.
But we can only go in the direction that we live, as far as we know.
As far as we
know. So far. And so science fiction has some real cool things. I read a novel. I wish I could remember what the novel was. They encoded data and were able to use black holes to send information back only.
That makes sense, actually, because prior to the black hole, the light was releasing or traveling.
Yeah.
So if you can get it into the black hole at a time that goes back far enough, then that black hole doesn't exist. That signal gets sent out.
Yeah. There was
that's really cool.
It was very cool. I wish I could remember what the book is. I might have to go look for it again. The problem that they created, though, was with the research that they were doing to receive all of that information, they suddenly discovered they were getting that information, and then what they discovered was that those little mini black holes that were sending back the information were aggregating at the center of the planet, and the messages became more dire about how they were going to destroy the whole planet.
That makes sense.
With a black hole.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay, well, that's kind of crappy.
And I read a really good short story once about a guy, and I totally have used this story, the guy that creates the thing that will reverse time. And the story proceeds, and it describes, and it all happens when you push the button like this. Then it just starts writing the story backwards.
Ah.
So it literally reverses time, like everything just starts going backwards from there, right? Because he pushed the button.
Which is great.
Yep. But then, you know, there's no undo because it's already done.
Yeah, there's no way to make time go the other way yet.
Because we're only going backwards now. We're only the joy of not traveling back in time. It was sort of a cautionary tale about why you might not wish to make a backwards time machine.
Yeah. Or the other kind of thing that sort of gets lots of play in comic book land, because it just gives you more stories, is the multiverse.
Well, and
right. So time travel creates branches.
So
Flashpoint.
My understanding of that is actually one of the subjected models is that you perceive yourself as traveling back in time, but you've actually traveled to a different reality in which this time change happened, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Otherwise, the reality you're from still persists. You've just gone back to a separate one, and you're
Unless you do
in
something somewhere back here that stops this other one from persisting, in which case, grandfather paradox problems.
Yes. I'm good with that.
Back to the Future.
Yeah. Where we can.
Where we're
witness
going,
this.
we don't need roads.
But he started to fade. His hand didn't
Yep.
work because his parents weren't going to get together, probably. So his fade was slow.
Yeah.
But it's a nice storytelling device.
Roads, where we're going, we use fender.
Bonk. Bonk. I mean, he's of an age. It's
Yep.
probably true.
Yep.
Drive by feel. So
I
let's do this.
I meant the other fender.
We've got like two or 3 minutes here.
Yep.
So you noticed this on our coffee.
I did.
It's a hashtag. Can we see this on the screen?
Probably can't, but it does say hashtag you have the power
I can almost see that.
to end sexual violence. It's put up by the Chinook Sexual Assault Center. They're raising some funds.
Donate now.
I believe this to be a not-for-profit organization that is working very hard on the educational aspects of, let's not be terrible to other people, especially not doing it, especially don't be terrible sexually.
Yeah.
And it's a message I can get behind.
I definitely
So
support the be nice to others. Don't go in the bikini zones uninvited.
yeah,
Don't touch uninvited.
you-
Period.
you have
What? Ooh. Oh, well.
the. I'm putting it on it on
we're-
the feed here.
We're putting this up on the feed. I think we're just gonna.
I think.